Hello, friends. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. It seems like it's been longer than a week since we've got together and been able to do this and to talk about how we're taking care of ourselves. I see a few of you on. Go ahead and hit the chat function. Let me know who's here. Last week, we talked about setting compelling goals in the form of a keystone. What's up, Robin? Hey, Samson. Thanks for joining. So while we're getting ready to get started, if you were one of the people who were with me last week, I'd love to know how the process of setting your keystone has started to unfold. Have you landed on the one intention that is tying in all parts of your life together? And yeah, we can use the first couple of minutes as a review and as a QA from last week. I know that it's tough in this format to really dive deep, so I thought today we'd use the first few minutes as QA versus the end, and we can start from there. So go ahead and put in any questions that you have from last week, and or just say hello as we're starting to pile on. And Samson, I have my other device for texting in case it's easier that way for us to communicate. Welcome, friends. I'm seeing 13 of us now. Type your name in. Let me know where you're coming in from. I know Robin and Samson are in the house. Thanks, brother. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a great week. We'll wait another 30 seconds or so before we dive into today's content, today's curriculum, today's thoughts. And it's a little bit of a three-parter. Hey, Allison from Northern Virginia. Thanks for joining. Have you joined us on CPY Live yet? Carolyn from home. Home being where I'm at as well, in Orange County. All right, my friends, it's time to dive in. So big encouragement to chat along with me. Be as interactive as possible. Oh, right on, Allison. Soon we'll get in. Be as interactive as you can, especially if you have a question. There's no need to be shy. All right, my friends. Little review of last week. Last week was about looking at your life and designing your life in such a way that from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed, everything you are doing is connected to one great purpose or one great intention. The Sanskrit word is Maha, which means the great one. And the short review is that most goal setting or intention setting practices cannibalize each other because they ask you to have different goals for different areas of your life, a physical, a mental, an emotional, a spiritual, and then they kind of fight with each other. Last week it was, can you find one event, one intention that ties everything in together? And the reason that we started on that work was because when it comes to emotional health, oftentimes when we feel anxious or sad or a lower vibrating emotion, it's because we don't have a real clear direction or a compelling reason to move towards something. And it's one of the easiest and most energizing fixes that we can add to our emotional health practice, and it's to have just a compelling goal. If you decided on what it was, please share it in the chat now. If you had a question on any of that, please share it in the chat now. I would love to see what you came up with, how you're tying in all the areas of your life together, and or if you're stuck. You're like, I get this, but I don't know how to connect the dots. As you're thinking, as you're typing, I'll move on. Hey, Janine. So today, write down these 3 words in your notebook or whatever you're taking notes on. And it's a 3-parter today. The first word I would like you to write down is the word grief. And this hasn't, we'll cover that, Robin. This hasn't been covered, I don't think, enough in the news and in all of the social channels. And it's this idea of grief. Many of us have lost people or things that are really important to us in our life. Not just in the last 9 weeks, and definitely in the last 9 weeks. But what I've learned is that the process of change and the loss of the old way of life, some really big things, some small things, it has the same effect on each and every one of us emotionally as the loss of a loved one. So if it was a relationship, if it was a job, if there's a layoff or a furlough or a restructuring, or you're moving, and or just knowing that in a big sense of the world, or a big sense of the picture, the world is going to be different than it used to be, and you're left feeling that loss. The main thing here that I want to convey is that it's okay. What you're experiencing is the sensation of grief, and grief is not only tied to the loss of life. So big concept. And I wanted to share it with you more so that there's an awareness around how you're feeling and an acceptance. Go on Google. There's tons of amazing resources on on the steps of grief, how to manage it, how to support yourself there. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time there, but I wanted to give you an insight to if you're experiencing that feeling and you couldn't put your thumb on it. For a lot of us, it is this sensation of loss, and it doesn't have to be connected to the loss of life. And for some of us, it has been. So when you can acknowledge something and put a definition around it, it automatically brings you a sense of peace because there's a knowing with what's happening. When we look at emotional health practices, so often when we don't feel well, it's because there's a lack of clarity and there's a lack of knowing. Even when that knowing is like not the best thing. For example, I've been in romantic relationships in the past, right? I'm in one now. I'm married. So it's been 6 or 7 years. But I remember there was moments in other relationships where there would be a fight or an argument or something, and you just wouldn't know what the outcome was going to be. And there was a couple of days where I didn't talk to that human, and that place of limbo, that unknowing, that uncertainty caused more stress and anxiety in leaving the planet than did the actual result. And there was a couple of them that I can bring to mind really quickly where the result was an ending of the relationship. The breakup happened. And even though the breakup hurt, there's a peace inside of knowing what's happening. So understanding and knowing that the experience of grieving the loss of the way life used to be, there's peace in that. And then once you have that peace, once you know what's going on, then you can dive into the healing with all of the amazing tools that are available for grief. So number one for today, if you're feeling any type of loss, it can fall under that bucket. It probably is. Acknowledge it for yourself and then start the healing process there. It doesn't just have to be the loss of life. Questions or thoughts on acknowledging that space for you? And then we're going to flip the page because the next one is some really fun homework. Thanks, Robin. Next one is the other end of the barrel when it comes to emotional well-being and healing. It's also something that's not talked about enough, but it's the exact, I would say, opposite. Not the exact opposite. It's just a radically different experience. In our first meeting together, we talked about how gratitude on the state chart is this great neutralizer. If you're feeling down, you apply gratitude, it brings you to zero. If you're feeling good and you apply gratitude, it's this turbocharging up. There's another secret turbocharger that neutralizes most, if not all, situations, and it is humor. It is humor, it is laughter. It is the ability to look at something and to laugh at it and to make fun of it. So 2-3-parter here. Number one, or just write down humor / laughter. Laughter is an extraordinary medicine. Couple of ways to get there. Some of the homework is to just like watch your favorite funny show or movie, or talk to somebody who just makes you laugh, right? It goes inside of that state elevation list that we made weeks ago now. I have this cousin, his name is Joe, and anytime I'm not feeling my best, I just give him a call and I'm like, Joe, what's up, man? Tell me about your day. And he just goes off in the most inappropriate ways, like the most non-yogi. He's just awesome for that reason. And I laugh so hard that my cheeks hurt. I'm crying, my face hurts, and I'm like, thanks, brother. And it's done. Like, I don't even know if he knows that that's why I call him. Samson said I watched an episode of Family Guy almost every night. Yes, good. So your homework is to, or we can do this together right now, make a list of things that really make you laugh that are external. TV shows, comedies. There's so much good comedy on Netflix right now and on YouTube. Movies, books, people, but really give yourself an intentional opportunity to laugh. There is something about it that just makes you feel good. And it's actually, you're releasing a lot of those same bliss chemicals that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. Type in the chat function, what are some things that make you laugh? If it's your cousin, Joe, or like Samson shared, Family Guy. And then we're going to go into part 2 of the medicine of laughter and humor and how this changes. Playing funny games on Zoom. Oh, yeah, there is some weird, funny stuff coming out, but that's the point. There's 8 other people on here. What makes you laugh? I can tell you right now, staring at myself in the baby's bedroom, talking to a camera is an interesting, weird, and funny experience for me. Watching my kids do crazy stuff. Yeah, my kittens, my kids, my brother. Janine Dawn, thank you. The second part of laughter and of humor, and this takes a little bit of skill and practice, is to train yourself to find the funny in you. Another way to put this is to not, and my 5-year-old doing yoga, right? Is to not take yourself so seriously. And that's an interesting thing to say because we have very serious careers, we have very serious roles, right? If we talk about yoga, and it's a life-changing cathartic practice where I've wept many times on my mat. But then can you develop and cultivate the skill set or the practice to look for the funny anytime something hits the fan, anytime you fall and scrape your knee? Again, personal story. And this was in high school. I was in high school, so I'm 42, so it's a long time ago. One of our classmates, he died of cancer, and so we're a bunch of 17-year-old kids crying our eyes out at the funeral, and then I had this buddy named Pickle who started making goat noises during the middle of the funeral, and we're like, what do you, it was just the most inappropriate thing. And I'm not saying, like, please don't do that, right? This is a high school kid. But we started laughing when you're not supposed to laugh. And if you remember any time laughing when you're not supposed to, and you start to make those little squeaks, and then it makes you want to laugh more. And there was the 4 of us in the back who were laughing under our breath while we're crying, and it shifted the entire experience of that moment. And from that moment on, we went through the rest of the celebration of life, and it was with so much openness. It was us exercising, and we didn't know this at the time, the ability to be human, to simultaneously feel sorrow, and then to also simultaneously feel joy and peace and release for what's happening in the present moment. So if you apply that to today, and what's funny about your day-to-day life, what's funny about the Zoom calls and people accidentally going to the bathroom and leaving their camera on, like, can you find the funny to keep it light? The result is it's just powerful because it'll keep you fresh, it'll keep you engaged. And then you actually, what I've experienced is that my results tend to get better because it's not so heavy, not so tight, I'm not so constricted. So the field of vision is it's a lot bit more open. So 2 ways to review that humor. It's externally receive it, movies, books, friends, whatever. And then it's to look at yourself and just be okay with you being funny when you're not trying to be funny, if that makes any sense. Find the funny. Find the funny. You can write that down. Find the funny. You don't have to share it with anybody. You don't have to make any sounds. But it stops the downward spiral and the contraction that happens when you move emotionally down the state chart. Questions or thoughts on find the funny? And then we're going to wrap with a meditation. See? There you go. I love that. Samson sweated his face off and rode really hard on a bike that was stuck in his room. Other personal find the funny moments over the last couple of weeks that actually change the way you perceive the situation. And that's the key. I don't want to get lost there. It's to change the way you perceive the situation if it is an emotional drain. If it's fun, if you're having a blast, like Samson riding the Peloton, great. You don't have to do anything. But if it's an emotional drain and you find the funny, then it changes your perspective. And as a review, It's just another tool. If life is 90% how you react to the 10%, there you go. Oh, I have done that. I think I fell down the stairs yesterday, brother. All right. Third and final word or concept for today. And that concept is forgiveness. Forgiveness. This is a biggie. This is a biggie. Today is a biggie. Grief, laughter, forgiveness. Those are the words. And so I'll talk a little bit about forgiveness, and then we'll dive into a meditation, or I'll guide us through a meditation on forgiveness. And it's a spin on a metta meditation. So forgiveness. Who is forgiveness for? Is forgiveness for the other person, or is forgiveness for you? Most of you know that answer. The making of amends and the forgiveness is always for yourself, because we are the ones who carry the hurt around. We are the ones who carry the trauma or the pain from whatever the discretion was, or the event was. And a lot of times people get confused on, like, they need to forgive me, I need to forgive them, I need an apology, it didn't land the way it was, and like all of that. What I'm talking about is the sensation of you letting go inside of your heart, which has nothing to do with what had happened. And I want to be really clear here. People do like really bad things. There are some things that are unforgivable. There are many things that are unforgivable. And when we look at this practice as a spiritual practice for healing, this is where we make a turn. The act, call it unforgivable, and I'm in agreement. The hurt or the anger directed at the person or the event or I almost said a bad word on YouTube, or the pandemic, that lies in our responsibility to heal and to shift that sensation. So as a practice, the more often you can forgive for yourself, for the sensation and not the act, again, outside, separate, different, the more peace you will feel. And then it's been my experience that when I feel more peace in and around a situation, I can look for the areas of opportunity where I can grow, where I can learn, where I can set better boundaries, or I can just separate, process, and move on. On the other hand, anytime I'm holding on to anger, or anger is a good word for anything that has happened in the past, I'm stuck. It's as if I'm stuck in cement and I'm unable to move forward and or beyond that. And then the yoga philosophy really comes into play here, because I am no longer free, I am no longer liberated, I am a slave of X, Y, and Z. I'm beholden to that. So practice to start is to forgive. And instead of going external with things that are happening, I wanted to spend a few minutes going over a meditation where we're given an opportunity to forgive ourselves for perceived failures or shortcomings or missteps that we've had in our life. Because, we're human and we've all had them, if not daily. I know for me, there's daily. So find a seat or whatever space will allow you to be comfortable. And close your eyes. You only need to hear the words. Actually, open your eyes again really quick. Put your hands on your heart. So your palms on your heart, as if you're holding your heart. Different from prayer palms. Hold yourself. Then close your eyes and let your head hang heavy. First, feel the presence of your heart. Feel the presence of your divine nature. Whatever your practice or belief system is, get close to the essence of who you are. And then travel back in time and see yourself when you were a toddler. You were a little buddy. Maybe you had your diapers on, you're running around with your dolly, playing with your toys. And from where you are today, in your mind's eye, pick up that toddler, which is you, and give that little person a hug. Send that little person love. And then look that little human in the eyes and say, you are doing your best, and that's all you can do. And put that little human down and watch them run away to play with something else. Next, you time travel to your teens and see yourself as a teenager and remember who you were. Maybe there was some self-doubt or self-judgment or comparison or who knows. But see yourself. And again, walk up to yourself and give yourself the biggest hug and let you know, hey, you're doing your best. This is all you can do is your best. And it's all good. It's okay. You'll scrape your knee, you'll learn, but know that you're doing your best. Then you allow your teenage self to move away. Now, with that same level of acceptance and forgiveness in your heart, come face to face with who you are today. Wrap your arms around who you are today. Give yourself a big, big hug. And from the wisest, most divine place in you, tell yourself today, hey, you are doing the best with what you got. And that's all anybody can do. It's impossible to do more than your best. Even when you failed, even when you start arguing with yourself and you're like, yeah, but I could have done better. There's an argument that goes, you did what you did and what you did was reality, thus it was your best. Because that's what happened. Nothing more, nothing less. And then you look yourself in the eye and say, you're forgiven. Keep the embrace. Notice how you start to soften. Notice how the tightness and the clenching and the gripping begin to loosen up. And then you begin to realize that no matter what age you are, no matter where you're at in your life, we are always simply doing our best with what we've been given. And we only begin to hold a grudge against ourselves as we get older because we believe the lie that we think we should know better as we get older, but every stage of our life is the same. So even now, if we were to go 10 years into the future, you might go, oh yeah, remember how I was during the pandemic? And you get to do the same thing. You hold yourself, you give yourself a big old hug, and you say, you had no idea. We all just did our best. Let this self of you go and breathe deeply. Make peace with you. Make peace with the way things are. Then seal this time traveling meditation exercise in a way that's deep and meaningful for you. Take a moment. Right on, friends. Blink your eyes open. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking about how to take care of ourselves. Quick review. That feeling of loss is grief. Use the resources that are available to us to heal. Make sure you laugh. Laugh often, laugh hard. Laugh at the world, laugh at yourself. And then notice where you're holding on to a hurt or a grudge and do the inner work to forgive here. And then it'll start to ripple outward. Thanks, Samson. Love you. I teach the C2 in a couple of hours, 5 o'clock, CPY Live, live.corepoweryoga.com. Namaste, friends. Can't wait to see you again. And actually, good things are coming. Bye.